Hello and welcome to another episode of the Contractor Grow Show. My name is Mark Lamberth. I'm your host. Today I'm speaking with Chris Murphy at Compass Outdoor Living in Grand Junction, Colorado. Chris, thanks so much for being with us today.
Appreciate you having me. I'm excited about it, Mark.
Yeah, so I'm taking a look at you guys' story. It looks like you guys are up to some really cool stuff. I'd love to hear from your words just what services you provide for your customers.
Yeah, so we are positioned as a design, build, landscape construction contractor. So our primary target are going to be clients looking for, really an all-encompassing outdoor living space. So, from flat work to covered patio spaces, outdoor kitchens, pools, kind of the destination location items in an outdoor living space. And we love to cater to those where we come in, we facilitate a good consultation on site. We come up with a creative 3D rendering of the space, work through all of the, attributes of a project, and then come through and fulfill that project.
Beautiful. I've talked to a lot of design, build, outdoor living space entrepreneurs, and man, I got to say, you guys seem to have the most amazing life.
Yeah, it's never easy. There are times where the quote landscaping market can feel saturated, but we've really prided ourselves and built the business on a brand that recognizes the importance of details, recognizes the importance of how the client's going to live with that outdoor living space for a long time. So we take a lot of care in making sure that the things are done right, which takes, a lot of quality control and a lot of attention to detail. But, ultimately our clients put a lot of trust in us. So we're just as blessed as they are to get to work with those types of clients on the types of projects they trust us with.
Gotcha. And so are you focused more on the outdoor living space these days? I mean, you guys also you started Compass Landscaping in 2017. I mean, how much of your work, or I guess what percentage is kind of new build of outdoor spaces versus kind of more traditional landscaping and maintenance type work?
So we essentially offer next to zero on the maintenance side of things. We will take care of facilitating pond and new water feature maintenance. Right now, some new system tracking that we put in place has allowed us to kind of figure out where all of our time is allocated. Right now, we're operating just about 65% is a new construction market, typically in a higher end residential setting. And the rest of that fulfilled with landscape renovations or, coming in for specialty pieces.
Gotcha. Okay. And then you guys are in Grand Junction, beautiful area of Colorado, over on the west side of the slope. What is the kind of geographic service area that you guys operate in?
So we try to keep that relatively tight. An operation like ours is not, super cost effective to mobilize in long distances, but we do cover up through Routt County. So the Steamboat area, we've done some amazing projects up there. We'll travel south down towards Telluride, Montrose area, and then essentially from this kind of Grand Junction greater area towards the border of Utah. But typically we're going to try to stay within 100 to 120 mile radius.
Okay. And then how many folks do you have on your team right now?
Right now we're operating 10 guys in the field. We do have some administrative folks. There's days where we wish we had 20, but in our market, again, our attention to detail is not easily replicated. And so we've really found that kind of keeping a more consolidated team and growing with a little bit more predictable pace is a better option for us. So we kind of hung around that 10 field contractor space for a while.
Gotcha. And then we talked a little bit before the show here. I mean, you guys have done kind of a complete systems overhaul here in the last year, looking at just some of the business systems. And you said that's actually been incredibly helpful for you and maybe even helpful for other, builders. What does that look like and how has that helped?
Yeah. So I think in any growing business, obviously, you get to a point where there's a lot of money flowing in and a lot of money seemingly flowing out at a rapid pace. And for us, in order to not only continue to dial in our systems, but in order to facilitate different moves in our business, we wanted to figure out really where all of our job costing and dollars and cents were being attributed. And I think it's pretty easy for a lot of contractors, especially if you don't do just one thing. The guys show up to a project and they're facilitating a bunch of different things on the project, and it can be difficult to figure out really where all of the time and money went in each kind of individual area of the project. And so we implemented a new kind of business management software, which we're utilizing synced up. Obviously, some administrative setup time associated with that, but it's really helped us dial in the costs, so our foreman and job leads on the projects can track the hours directly to a specific work area. We can track production rates and figure out what's working, what's not, where we need to revisit some training. And then it's also helped us tremendously on the front end, where our costs associated with any particular project are a lot more refined and streamlined in presenting new proposals to clients. So it's really helping us in a lot of areas. And all of a sudden, when you realize that, you're putting in even minutes more than you anticipated, when that gets kind of extrapolated through the year, there's a big difference. So that's been tremendous for us and our team. It's helped with communications. It's helped with streamlined efficiencies and kind of identifying some business deficits we've had.
Amazing. I love that kind of stuff. Let me ask, not looking for specifics or, the exact organization or software, whatever that you're using. But if you were going to give someone advice on, if they're a builder contractor and they could use that type of help, what general direction would you steer them in to look deeper into that? Is there a way, how would you describe this? Like, look, this is what you need to go kind of implement into your business.
Yeah. So it's a great question, because it took me longer than it should have in hindsight to pull the trigger on implementing a software like this. We were no different than most contractors around the country, tons of different spreadsheets, tons of different documents, QuickBooks being the baseline tracker. So what we looked for was how is the software going to help centralize all of those different applications from the time that a customer calls or a client reaches out to us. How do we track that they called, keep them in front of our sales team or myself? And then how do we move that all the way through the system? There's dozens and dozens of different opportunities for different softwares for various kind of sizes of business. So I think one of the most important factors is figuring out what software has all of the elements that you need now, but where do you anticipate the business moving in the next, 2 to 3 years? And then, making a commitment. And I think, although you may not love the software the first go around, once you've established the use of something like that, you can certainly reevaluate that down the line. But the amount of time that we justified strictly for my office time or the business management side of things, we were liquid and profitable on this software deal in, literally 2 weeks. So
amazing.
It always seems like something's going to be a daunting task. There, again, administrative time, and the more effort I think you put into something, the more you're going to reap down the line. But my straightforward answer would be, don't wait. You need to get something in place that helps facilitate this, and then recognize the time savings, the cost savings, and how it helps produce more of the bottom line.
Well, and then did you actually live over in Denver on the Front Range? You said you have some family over here?
Yeah. So my wife and I were both originally from the Front Range. We moved over to Grand Junction in like the 2013 timeframe. So we've been over here, a good bit. We do love it over here. There's certainly perks of the Front Range that you get to reap that we don't necessarily, but I think we outweigh it over here on this side of the mountain.
I believe that. I've spent some time over there. It is absolutely gorgeous. Just curious. Starting a business, it's a big move to move to a different part of the state and, to settle down and to start a business. How did you guys choose to make that move from over here on the Front Range to, 150 miles west over to another beautiful, completely different part of the state?
So the initial move had nothing to do with this business, but we were looking, my wife and I, for a little bit of a transition. she had some family here. So it made this move fairly straightforward for us. Initially, I think this was going to be a little more short-lived. There were a lot of other irons in the fire. I came from a totally different market space, had a different business on the Front Range, kind of a different multi-state deal. And when we moved here, there was just an opportunity working in conjunction with a business my mother-in-law had, where I saw some pitfalls, I think, in some of the service markets here. And I'd always loved working with my hands, had always been into, different projects around homes I'd owned, inside and out. And I really just started trying to piece together some of these areas that might benefit some of her clients, and then really just kind of fell in love with it. And the absolute truth is we took a project on very, very early that was far outside the scope of what we were necessarily capable of. Don't get me wrong. We were very clear with the client that this was a little bit of uncharted territory, and we got our butts kicked, was the straight up truth. And I came back to my wife and I said, this doesn't look good, and maybe not the approach you think we should take, but I think we need to double down on this business. And if this is the market in landscape construction that we want to venture into, I said, we're going to have to make some significant investments. And she thought I was crazy. Looking back on that particular client that kind of introduced us to the space, we still have conversations with. They've since trusted us with other projects and properties they've had it. And now those types of projects are, essentially our bread and butter. So kind of a unique way to get into it. We kind of stepped in backwards to it, but now, I love what we do.
Oh, that is amazing. Fantastic, Chris. Well, if folks are in the Grand Junction area in Colorado, 100-mile radius around, and are looking for a great, design, build, landscape, architecture company to work with, what is a great way to reach out to you guys?
Yeah. So obviously all of our contact info is on our website, along with a great portfolio of services. Can get a good intimate understanding of who we are and what we do at compassgj.com. And from there, we got some great aspects of that website. You can go through and kind of build a portfolio or a project, get some ideas on costs, see some different ideas and things we've put in the field, and get a really good understanding of who we are and what we're about. compassgj.com.
Fantastic. Like Compass Grand Junction, compassgj.com.
You got it.
Fantastic, Chris. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your wisdom, some fun stories about how this all started. And wishing you guys the very best here in 2026.
I appreciate you very much, Mark. Thanks so much for what you're doing for the community.